as I said before, I'm the program director of Heat Smart Tompkins. We are a community nonprofit serving Tompkins and Chemung counties. What we do is education, outreach, and just general support for home or building owners or renters to make energy improvement upgrades to their home or building. We like to emphasize the 3 C's of energy efficiency, which are cost savings, the comfort, and the climate solutions that you can realize by making your home or building more efficient. And also convenience is an added one when we're talking about heat pumps. So we are one of the NYSERDA's clean heating and cooling communities. NYSERDA stands for New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and those folks are the state agency that helps promote energy efficiency around the state, not just for homes and buildings, but all kinds of climate and energy solutions. And I love to show this map of all of New York State's clean heating and cooling or heat smart programs, because what you can see is that as of today, most New Yorkers are served by one of these clean heating and cooling programs, which is really exciting. And kind of bragging rights for Heat Smart Tompkins, we were the very first program. We started this before NYSERDA funded us. And so it was kind of our idea that has gone viral, if you'll pardon the expression, across New York State and even to other states. And we're incredibly proud of that fact. And here's the saddest slide of the whole deck. This is a headline from 2 days ago from The Guardian. So because of this climate crisis that we're experiencing now, some parts of the world worse than others, we're pretty fortunate still here in the Finger Lakes area of New York, but we are still noticing the climate changing and making things more dangerous and uncomfortable for us and our neighbors. So we need to look and see, how do we reduce those greenhouse gases, those gases that get trapped in the Earth's atmosphere and from the emissions from our fossil fuel combustion, and make the atmosphere warmer. And here in New York, we actually have passed a law last year, the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, that actually requires us to reduce those emissions, which is pretty groundbreaking stuff. So when we have to figure out how to do that, we have to look at where do emissions come from. And as you can see from this graphic, our buildings are about 1/3 of our overall climate emissions. And some would say this graphic undercounts the emissions from buildings, and actually it's probably the biggest sector. I would agree with that assessment. So Heat Smart is concerned about emissions from buildings, and we have several kinds of recommendations. The first is, and the one that we're going to talk about the most today, is weatherization. That is taking a look at your building envelope and how well insulated and air sealed the building is, so that you can keep the warm air inside in the winter and the cool air inside in the summer and be more comfortable year round. And then for space heating and cooling, we recommend something called heat pumps, a highly efficient way to heat and cool that is run on electricity. And those heat pumps can also heat your domestic hot water, which is about 15 to 20% of your home's energy use. So weatherization is the topic of tonight's webinar, and I wanted to sort of summarize to begin with what the benefits of weatherization are. These might not be the only ones, but these are a few of the important ones. So more comfort. And one thing I noticed talking to folks on the phone is everybody's spending more time at home than they ever did before, and they're really starting to think about their home comfort. They want to be able to stay cool in the summer, stay warm in the winter, breathe clean air in their home, and just be comfortable year round. So that's very important always, and more so as we stay home more. Save money on bills. Again, needs no explanation, very important to most folks. Improve your air quality. This is something that we've been thinking about more with the pandemic, about the air we're breathing and whether it's clean. People have issues with dust, with mold, with all kinds of environmental contaminants, and so it's important to seal up your building envelope to have just the right amount of fresh air coming in from outside, not too much and not too little. So this is a new one I hadn't thought about before, but I was preparing for this webinar today. So if you are running air conditioning or a furnace or boiler and your house isn't well insulated, that equipment has to work so much harder to keep the air cool or warm. So actually, by insulating and air sealing, you're extending the life of that equipment by letting it run less hard and more efficiently. And that was something I hadn't thought of before. I think that's a great benefit that most people maybe don't think of. And curb climate change. That's why HeatSmart was founded. We're very interested in climate solutions to help preserve livability on our spaceship Earth. Keep dirt and bugs out. So a well-insulated and sealed house is going to be less dirty, less to clean, and fewer creepy crawlies coming in. Most people don't really love to have a bunch of spiders and centipedes in their house, so that's another benefit. And improve the durability of your home. So, your home is made of maybe wood, could be brick or other materials, whatever your home is built out of, but especially wood. If it's climate controlled, insulated, and sealed, that the life of the wood, of the windows, of the doors, of the structure of the house is going to be improved. And increase your home value. Although our home values have gone up around here for other reasons, most people's biggest investment is in their home. So we want to increase our home value and maintain it. So when I say weatherization, mostly what I'm talking about is insulation and air sealing, and it's easy to get those things confused. Insulation, I like to think of as a warm, woolly sweater. So it does keep you really warm, but it doesn't keep the air from blowing through. So if it's a windy day, the sweater will help keep you warm, but the cold air is still going to blow through that sweater. So that's like insulation. Air sealing is like that windbreaker that you put on over the sweater, and that keeps actually that cold air from blowing through. And air sealing can be done with caulk, with other kinds of materials, or spray foam, which actually does insulation and air sealing at the same time with one product. This is just another graphic showing the same thing, which I thought I took out of the presentation, but I guess I didn't. So here's two more pictures showing what I just talked about. So weatherization, people call me on the phone all the time and they say, I know my house needs insulation. I think I need new windows. So we like to remind people that although new windows or well-sealed windows are certainly a good component of a well-weatherized house, they aren't the first priority. The first thing to look at is the attic. A is for attic, and we like to start there. A lot of people's attics are not well insulated, and I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. B is for the basement. So the next thing you do is go down to the basement and seal around. The rim joist is a very common area where there's a lot of air leakage. That's sort of where the built part of your house sits on the foundation, and that's a place with a lot of air leakage. And C is for the conditioned space. That's the part that we actually live in all day long, the walls, the windows, the doors, and that actually comes last, even though it's probably what we think of first. The reason we start with the attic is something called the stack effect. So as we all know, warm air rises. And so if you have the air rising up through the attic and going out, it actually, not only are you losing the heat from the house through the attic, but you're actually sucking cold air in through the basement and the conditioned space. And so stopping the attic, you can think of it as, what did your mom say when you're cold? Put on a hat. So the first thing is to start with is the attic. This is a slide I borrowed from somebody else, but I loved this shows where some of the air loss is in a typical attic and where you can seal around to stop that. So the plumbing vent can often be a place where warm air escapes. Recessed lights are famous for being bad, around any ducting that goes out, and electrical wiring as well. So these are some of the major air leaks that from the conditioned space where you live into your attic. Wall insulation, this is showing where people are getting insulation blown into the cavity of their wall between the outside and the inside. And this is one of the things that with the kinds of work that can be done by the home performance contractors through the Heat Smart program. Some benefits of wall insulation is you can do it with minimal damage to your siding. It can be a big reduction in the heat loss from the house, a significant improvement in comfort, and also make your house a lot quieter, which I didn't really think about because I live out in the country where it's pretty quiet. But my daughter has a house in Rochester, and we did some insulation there, and it was amazing how much quieter it was inside on her busy street. So one of the advantages of getting involved right now to get a home energy assessment for insulation, air sealing, or weatherization is that there's a lot of grant money available through New York State. Starting out with the lowest income earners, everyone up to 60% of median income qualifies for a program called Empower. And if you're not sure if you qualify for Empower, you can talk to me and I can help you figure that out. But if you qualify for HEAP or SNAP or other assistance programs, you pretty much automatically qualify for Empower, even if your earnings are higher than the Empower qualification. If any member of your household, for example, is on SNAP, you automatically qualify for Empower. So this is by household size, and this is the total income under which you would qualify for this $10,000 Empower grant. So that grant can pay for for a lot of homes for all the insulation, air sealing, and some additional safety upgrades that you might need. Then for people earning above 60% of median and all the way up to 120% of median, you'll qualify for a different program called Assisted Home Performance that provides a $5,000 matching grant. So this is dollar for dollar matching what you put in. So if you put in if the job is $8,000, you would pay $4,000, and Assisted Home Performance would pay $4,000. But very important point is at the end of this month, as of 5 p.m. on August 31st, they're going to drop this income qualification from 120% of median income to 80% of median income, which is just much, much lower. I think, for example, this household of 4 that's now qualifies if they earn under 120,452, I think it goes down to the low 80s. So it's a really dramatic difference of about $40,000 in total household earnings. So if you are close to the top of these ranges, you should get in touch with Heat Smart right away, and we can make sure you apply for the Assisted Home Performance program. All you have to do is make sure that your application gets in before or by August 31st. And once your application is in, then you're locked in at these levels. So it's very important to act as swiftly as possible. In addition, those who qualify for Assisted Home Performance can get additional grants through Heat Smart through the Finger Lakes Climate Fund, which is a great program in Tompkins County, but can also be used in Chemung. That adds more money on top of this $5,000 matching grant. And then for those fortunate people who earn too much to qualify for any of these grants, there is another program called Comfort Home with 3 different levels of grants, depending on how much weatherization work you're getting done on your house. And I actually am getting a Comfort Home grant myself for that Rochester house where my daughter lives. So that's a pretty cool program for the people who want to get this work done and could use a little help, but don't qualify for the income-based grants. Okay, I want to briefly talk about heat pumps. This isn't a heat pump webinar, but the main thing that we do at Heat Smart is promote heat pumps for heating and cooling. And I just wanted to show you that heat pumps are a highly efficient way to heat and cool your home and your hot water. And they come in many different flavors and styles. And there's a heat pump solution for almost any type of heating or cooling situation at your home. And if you want to learn more about heat pumps, how they work, what incentives are available, how much they cost. That's another thing we can do through the Heat Smart program. Happy to connect with you anytime. And sometimes that assisted home performance grant can be applied to a heat pump system. So again, if you were at the top of that assisted home performance income range and you're interested in heat pumps, this is a really good time to get in touch with Heat Smart. Heat pumps can also save you a lot of money. This is just some different fuel types in a typical home. And as you can see, this ASHP is an air source heat pump. This is a ground source heat pump. Those are two kinds of heat pumps. And this is the cost for heating this home for a year. So in this particular home, you're looking at, in the $3,000 to $4,000 range to heat with propane, and the $1,000 range to heat with heat pumps. Electric baseboard heat and oil are also more than twice as expensive as heating with a heat pump. With gas heating, we can't guarantee savings. Sometimes it's, especially with air source heat pumps and gas, air source heat pumps could cost you a little more or a little less depending on the way you use them and versus your gas, et cetera. So you would want to, talk to a professional about what that would mean for you and your bills if you were concerned about that. All right, that's just briefly about heat pumps and some of the benefits of those. Again, we have lots of information about heat pumps on our website, other webinars, fact sheets, and you're always welcome to reach out to talk to me personally. I just want to show this great example. This is a job that Halco did in Chemung County for an Empower customer. This gentleman lived in a manufactured home, or lives rather in a manufactured home. And through a incentive program called the Heat Pump Adder Study, or the Heat Pump Study for low to moderate income, this gentleman was able to, through Empower, get all of this work done. So remember I said we start with the attic, 6 inches of cellulose in the attic. And then we go to the basement, 2 inches of spray foam under the floor. And then some air sealing in the living space, seal and insulate the rim joist. Again, that's kind of the basement area. Install Tyvek on the garage ceiling, and insulation vent baffles in the attic. So you need to insulate, but you need to also let some air flow in properly and out. And then Matt can probably say what this was about, and install an insulated hatch door assembly in the attic. And then remember I said it's a $10,000 grant, but here's over 12,000. That's because some health and safety issues can also be addressed through Empower work. So this person got more than $10,000, cost to the customer $0. And they also got a full air source heat pump system through the heat pump study. And the cost for that for this Empower customer was also $0. So there's some incredible programs available. The heat pump study is temporarily suspended, but there is going to be a little bit more money freed up for NYSEG and RG&E customers. So if you qualify income-wise and you're interested in heat pumps, you should really get in touch with us immediately, if not sooner. So I want to introduce our installer partners. We have 6 partners, but we have only 3 with us tonight because these are the ones who do the weatherization work or the home performance work. And all the partners working with Heat Smart have a demonstrated track record of quality work, excellent customer service. They stand by their installations. They, guarantee their work. They repair they maintain and repair the heat pumps they put in. They pay their employees all a living wage. And being part of the Heat Smart program means they're willing to take extra time out of their busy schedules to work together as a team with Heat Smart to do things like this webinar and other kinds of outreach. They help me out all the time with customer questions and problems, help problem solve, and how to serve all of you better. They've demonstrated a growth mindset. They're very interested in learning and growing along with the program. discussing innovations, new technologies, how to serve everybody best. And they share our values, really trying to invest in our communities and figure out how we tackle the climate crisis together as a group. So we are very proud to work with all of these companies. The three companies that are repped tonight on this webinar are Halco Energy, Simply Installs, otherwise known as Simply Home Performance, and Zero Draft. And all of these three companies serve both Chemung County and Tompkins County. And I think this is my last slide. So if you're ready to get a free home assessment for insulation, air sealing, or heat pumps, what we urge you to do is enroll at heatsmarttompkins.org, pick one or at the most two companies to talk to you. And I will send those leads on, and they will schedule a home visit with you to assess your individual home, talk to you about your goals, your budget, your needs, and how you use your home, and try to help you to improve it. These home assessments are free and no obligation. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sorry, that went a little bit long. And I want to introduce our three home performance experts with us tonight. We have Matt Dennis from Halco Energy, and Dan O, as we call him, since no one can say Asherowitz, he'll have to say it for us, and Sean O'Banion from Zero Draft. And in that order, I'm going to have you guys unmute and introduce yourselves and a little bit about your companies, and maybe a little short snippet about somebody who you've helped recently through some installation or air sealing jobs. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Dennis with Halco Energy. We've been with the Heat Smart program since day one. We're also partnered up with a couple other Heat Smart programs throughout Central New York and the Finger Lakes. A little bit about Halco. Been in business since 1984. We're a whole home performance energy company, which means we do everything. Our motto is, yes, we do that. So it has to do with home energy and home comfort, insulation, heating, heat pumps, air source and ground source, heat pump water heaters, general plumbing, electric, anything HVAC related, pretty much anything under the roof that has to do with your home energy and home comfort, we can take care of for you. Over 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you call us at any time, day or night, we will answer the phone. And it's a real life person at the office. It's not a answering service. It's not a leave a message, we'll get back to you. Somebody will always pick up the phone. 150 employees, cover 26 counties throughout Central New York. Lisa had asked to kind of talk about a project that we've done. And the first one that came to mind, as we do a lot of them, we're the largest contractor, home performance contractor with NYSERDA in the state. One project that always sticks to mind anytime somebody asks for like a unique story, and Lisa will know this as soon as I start telling it, because she uses it in the commercials. We had a young lady out in I think it's Ulysses, just outside of Shrewsbury, and young single mom, just trying to make ends meet. And she had this old farmhouse that was incredibly inefficient, very drafty, so much so that in the wintertime, she had to cordon off parts of the house because she couldn't heat it. The house was uninsulated. There's no insulation in this house. So they were literally lived by huddling around a wood stove, which, that's no fun. So you got your family just huddled in one room just because the whole house is just losing heat, and they were basically just huddled. The wood stove was their only heat source. So got in touch with Halco. I'm pretty sure it was a Heat Smart lead. I don't remember, but what we had done is we went and did the assessment and found the house was ridiculously uninsulated, and we were able to do quite a bit of improvements. Now, she was eligible for Empower and Assisted Home Performance, so we were able to use a lot of the grants available. So we insulated this house as best we could. We spray foamed and insulated the crawl space. We spray foam insulated in the attic. air sealed everything we could and reduced the air leakage by leaps and bounds. And then with the help of her mother and her family, we were able to put a heat pump system in for her and utilize a bunch of grants available through System Home Performance, through Heat Smart, through the Finger Lakes Climate Fund. We really made a significant impact, so much so that now she does not have to chop up her house and hide away in the wintertime. She can use her house to its full potential. They've got air conditioning now with the heat pumps, which I understand the young daughter is very happy about. And so much so she was able to reopen her daycare business that she had to close because she couldn't heat her house in the wintertime. So it was an amazing transformation, and not only was it energy savings, not only was it energy comfort, is really life changing, because now she could go back to her business. She could do what she wanted to do and be happy doing it. So I always like to tell that story because there's a lot of sort of elements to it, and at least it mentioned that the Empower grant has its limits. We pushed it well beyond the limits, and the reason for it is because we couldn't just piecemeal it. We had to make significant impacts, and we have to explain that to NYSERDA when we want to use more money than they typically allow. So we're just happy to make things work, and that made a significant impact in somebody's life. So that's what we do.
Thanks so much, Matt. I love that story. I think that came through Sustainable Tompkins, that lead. But we were able to really, one of the things that all these guys do really well is finding out all the money that you can qualify for and packaging it up together for you to try to sort of squeeze the last drop of juice out of the lemon. As it were. Okay, so Dan from Simply Home Performance, go right ahead.
Good evening, Dan Osharowitz from Simply Home Performance. We've kind of a newer company, but we'd like to, what we specialize in, we think we do really, really well. Heat pumps and air sealing insulation. We serve almost everywhere in the southern tier, so kind of no place where we won't go to. I'm located out of the Ithaca area. The company is actually more towards the Rochester area. Just kind of a recent project I was just thinking of when we were talking about this was a woman here in Ithaca, mobile home, 1969 it was built, and really she was original owner. Really rough shape. When I crawled underneath the home, there was no insulation left underneath it. And the door, she had an exterior hot water heater door, and it was off the hinges, and there was no insulation in there whatsoever. We ran a blower door test, and that blower door test came about 3 times what it should be. She was losing about 3 times off the home every hour, more than she should be. And her heating bills were astronomical for a very small single wide mobile home. We insulated it, fixed the mobile door, insulated that, and the blower door now is right where it should be. So this was just done a couple of weeks ago. So we don't have any heating data yet, but we expect it to be a significant difference for this woman. She's an older woman, retired. And this should really make her home a lot more livable, a lot more comfortable.
Thanks so much, Dan. I've been talking to a lot of folks who are waiting for their heat pumps, but they already got the insulation done, and they were kind of sad their heat pumps didn't come in the summer. But then they said actually they were so much cooler even without the air conditioning, just because they had the insulation and air sealing done. So it does make a really, really big difference for people's comfort and their bills as well. Sean O'Banion from Zero Draft, why don't you go ahead and say hello to the folks?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean O'Banion with Zero Draft. We're an employee-owned business. We've been in business for 15 years. It's a great company to work for. I worked for 3 other companies doing the same type of work. I actually used to install, so I know how to get right into it, and then I know what to look for. And the best part that I've been hearing from the other guys is the massive impacts that they're making with homeowners, and it's pretty awesome. So we focus on just mainly air sealing and insulation, but then we partner with Simply Installs and Daily Electric to do geothermal and air source heat pumps, depending on the situation. My favorite project, well, I have a lot of success stories with trailers as well, because they really fit the bill with when you can insulate and then throw a heat pump in there, multiple heads in rooms, or even just 2 on either end, depending on the situation, funding, and the size of the home. But my one that I want to talk about, which is a great project where we did air sealing in the attic. Like you mentioned, you want to start in the attic, but then you also want to look at the basement to make sure you're not creating any health and safety issues in the home. But the project I'm talking about, we did everything. We did the attic, the basement, where the crawl space, where we encapsulated it so that no moisture was coming up. We also did an air source heat pump ducted unit, which goes on top of the existing heating system, which was a high efficiency propane unit. So that is something that I only recently kind of learned about in the last few years because of this Heat Smart program that we were a part of when it first started in Ithaca. And then we also did an air source heat pump water heater to take that moisture that that is still in that space, coming through the concrete, the rock wall, because it's definitely an older home. But we definitely made a huge difference, because now her main source of heat was originally, some propane and a lot of wood, but she's getting into her years where she's thinking about retiring. She's a single one occupant in the home, and she can only handle so much wood, so it's going to be less work for her over time. That one that we buttoned up her home made it more comfortable, more efficient, and that she doesn't have to work as hard to maintain that amount of wood to heat this massive home for just one person currently in the house. So it's great. This adder program has just made such a huge difference. And then the Empower program, making that $10,000 hike, it was originally at like 8,000, then they kicked it back to 6, and then they've changed it a few times. This $10,000 limit makes all the difference, because you can really include the majority of like everything that needs to be done. Walls, you don't have to like lose out on things because of a budget situation. You can really take advantage of the program. And then anything that doesn't qualify, for example, like a heating system, because it's still operating, you can use that assisted home performance program. And then since the adder program is on hold, that's not an option at the moment, but that has been great, and I love it. This Heat Smart program is great.
Thanks, Sean. Where's that home that you were talking about?
It was in Chemung town, not Chemung County. It's a town. It's actually pretty close to like Elmira. It's like 25 minutes away. It's in Chemung County.
Oh, was that Fred? No, not Freda's house.
Actually, it was.
It was Freda's house. Okay.
Look at you. You're so good. You know your people. I like it.
Well, I knew her before. Yeah. Well, I have to just say that Sean has the Heroes Award for doing my friend Freda's house, because that was not an easy job.
Actually, I take pride in the difficult ones. I love it.
I personally spent 2 hours moving, no, more than 2 hours, almost a whole day moving stuff out of her attic so it could get insulated. That's a little bit above and beyond my normal scope.
I did not know that. Thank you. That's great.
So folks, now it's time for your questions.